Elias Marlowe stepped off the sleek human shuttle, his boots touching the smooth surface of Zithara's capital landing platform. The air was different here, thick with faint scents of alien flora that shimmered under the twin suns. He adjusted the strap of his satchel and took in the surroundings. Towering spires of polished metal reached high into the sky, their surfaces reflecting sunlight in soft, shifting patterns. The city felt alive, almost breathing with energy. Even though he had prepared for this moment for years, nothing in the briefing could capture the sheer scale and elegance of Zithra. Beside him, his small diplomatic team moved with quiet precision. There was Marla, the linguist, who carried a tablet filled with translations of the alien language. She had insisted on perfect pronunciation, though Elias had learned to improvise, trusting the human knack for reading context and intent. Then there was Captain Hart, their security officer, who kept a careful eye on the landing platform, analyzing every detail of the alien guards and structures. The Zitharan soldiers were imposing, their armor sleek and colored in dark iridescent tones that shifted with every movement. A figure stepped forward from the alien welcoming party, tall and regal, her movements precise and commanding. Princess Lysera. She had been watching the humans from afar ever since they entered the atmosphere, curious about the species that dared to approach her planet uninvited. Humans were known across the stars for their stubbornness, but she had not expected them to show up with such confidence, unshielded by weapons or overwhelming fleets. She studied Elias closely. He walked with steady steps, head held high, eyes scanning but never showing fear. "Welcome to Zithra, representatives of the Terran Alliance," Lysera said. Her voice was melodic, each word carefully measured. Her eyes, a vivid shade of violet, seemed to penetrate Elias' very thoughts, yet he did not flinch. He had prepared for negotiation, for intimidation, for subtle tests of courage, but nothing could truly prepare anyone for the presence of a Zitharan royal. Elias bowed slightly, a gesture he had learned from studying ancient Terran customs. "Thank you, Princess Lysera. It is an honor to stand on Zithra and represent humanity. We hope to find mutual understanding and cooperation between our worlds." As the humans were escorted through the city toward the Royal Council chambers, Elias noticed the subtle ways the aliens observed him. Zitharans valued strength and intelligence above all, often in equal measure. Their eyes followed his every movement, noting how he carried himself, how he spoke, how he reacted to small environmental cues. Even though they outnumbered him and had powers he could not comprehend, he moved with quiet confidence, acknowledging their presence without deference or fear. Lysera walked alongside him, still observing. She had studied humans in reports and simulations, but seeing one in person was different. The humans' resilience, their ability to face uncertainty with composure, intrigued her. In her culture, a stranger approaching the royal city would normally trigger suspicion, a flurry of security protocols. Yet Elias seemed different. The council chambers were vast, a hall of polished crystalline walls that reflected light in shifting patterns. Representatives of the Zitharan Council awaited, their faces stern and unreadable. They did not smile, did not nod. They simply observed, each waiting for a sign of weakness. Elias took a deep breath, reminding himself that human diplomacy often relied on honesty and moral courage more than intimidation or spectacle. "Representatives of humanity," a senior counselor began, his voice low and precise, "we are aware of your species' reputation. You are small, physically weaker than most interstellar species, yet you show remarkable persistence. Why should we trust you with our trade and technology? Humanity has survived and thrived because we face challenges directly, with integrity and adaptability. We hope to bring these qualities to a partnership with Zithra." After formalities, the humans were given quarters within the royal complex. The room assigned to Elias was minimalistic but elegant, with walls that shifted color depending on the angle of light. He unpacked his essentials and reviewed the agenda for the next day. There were discussions about trade, technology exchange, and cultural diplomacy. He also prepared mentally for subtle tests of character. Zitherans were known to create situations to observe behavior under pressure, and he intended to face each challenge with the honesty and courage that defined his species. Later, Lysera returned to observe the humans more closely. She lingered near the balcony, hidden in shadow, watching Elias interact with his team. He was teaching Marla a small human gesture, a sign of respect she would use with the council, laughing softly at her attempts. Even in this quiet moment, his natural confidence shone through. He did not dominate the conversation, but his presence was unmistakable. That evening, a minor emergency shook the city. One of the energy conduits powering the outer districts began to overload, threatening to cause damage. Alarm signals flared across the city, and the human team quickly volunteered to assist. Zitharan engineers hesitated. Outsiders were not usually allowed to intervene, but Elias stepped forward calmly. "We can help stabilize the conduit," he said. "We have experience with similar systems. We do not need to take unnecessary risks, but we can offer assistance." Where a Zitharan might have panicked or deferred to hierarchy, he acted decisively, earning reluctant respect from the engineers. By the time the conduit was safely stabilized, several council members who had come to observe were quietly impressed. A human, physically weaker than most Zitharans, had prevented a potential disaster through intelligence, courage, and calm decisiveness. Lysera could not hide her admiration. She had expected humans to be clever, perhaps stubborn, but not brave in a way that inspired trust and awe. Elias had not only faced danger but had done so without seeking glory, simply because it was the right thing to do. Later, in the quiet of the palace gardens, she approached him. "You act with bravery not common among your species," she said softly. "You do not seek to impress, and yet your presence commands respect. Perhaps it is different here, but I believe courage and honesty are universal qualities." As the sun set over Zithara, casting long shadows across the crystalline city, Elias and his team prepared for the official meetings the next day. Unbeknownst to them, Lysera would continue to observe, curious about how this human diplomat would navigate the complex web of Zitharan politics, intrigue, and tradition. She felt a spark of hope. Perhaps humans could teach her people a new way to value courage, intelligence, and morality alongside strength. For the first time, she thought, a human might truly change Zithara, not through force, but through the quiet power of character. And Elias, unaware of the depth of her attention, merely focused on doing what he had always done, acting with honesty, courage, and respect. The following morning, Elias Marlowe awoke to the soft hum of Zithara's city. The twin suns were higher in the sky now, casting a warm golden light across the crystalline spires and streets below. Even from his window, he could see the subtle movements of Zitharans going about their day, precise and deliberate. There was elegance in every gesture, but also a certain rigidity that reminded him of why diplomacy would be challenging. After a quick breakfast with his team, Elias prepared to attend the first official council session. Today would be more than formal introductions. They would begin discussing trade agreements, cultural exchanges, and mutual understanding. But first, there were whispers of tension brewing within the Zitharan Council. Some members had already expressed suspicion of the humans, questioning whether Elias and his team could be trusted. As the humans entered the council chamber, the air was thick with anticipation. The room was larger than before, with a domed ceiling that reflected the light in soft, shifting patterns. Alien representatives lined both sides of the chamber, their expressions serious. Lysera walked alongside Elias, her presence commanding attention without effort. A counselor spoke first, his tone measured and cautious. "Representatives of humanity, your arrival has caused much discussion. There are those among us who question your motives. How can we be certain that your species seeks cooperation and not advantage at our expense? That is why we are here, not to take, but to understand, to learn, and to share what humanity can offer. Our history has shown that we thrive when we act with integrity and courage, and we hope to bring the same principles to Zithra. His calm presence and clear communication had already begun to create a subtle shift in perception. Just as the session was about to continue, an urgent alarm blared throughout the chamber. The Zitherans immediately reacted, some moving toward communication panels while others activated security measures. Elias followed instinctively, aware that the humans needed to respond without causing panic. Reports came in quickly. An energy grid on the outskirts of the city was failing, threatening widespread disruption and potential harm to civilians. It was a dangerous situation, one that required immediate action. The council debated internally, unsure whether to allow outsiders to intervene. Elias stepped forward. "If I may," he said calmly, "we have experience in stabilizing energy systems under pressure. With your permission, my team and I can assist. We will follow your protocols and ensure safety for all involved. Proceed, human, but you will follow our instructions precisely." He gave clear, concise instructions, combining human improvisation with logic and careful observation. While he worked, Lysera stayed nearby, observing. She was struck by the way he remained calm under pressure, listening to the alien engineers, respecting their knowledge, yet confidently suggesting solutions. Where many Zitherans might have relied solely on hierarchy and rank to make decisions, Elias relied on intelligence, cooperation, and quick thinking. Minutes felt like hours as the team stabilized the grid. Sparks flew, alarms continued to sound, and tension gripped the surrounding area. Yet Elias' composure never wavered. He coordinated the effort seamlessly, ensuring the system returned to normal without causing further risk. When the crisis was finally contained, a wave of relief swept through the council chamber. Representatives whispered among themselves, some nodding in respect, others openly impressed. A human, physically weaker than their own species, had prevented a potential disaster through intelligence, bravery, and calm decisiveness. Lysera approached him afterward, her expression reflecting both curiosity and admiration. "You risked yourself for a cause that was not your own, yet you acted without hesitation. Humans act with courage that is rare among your species, and rare among ours as well. Perhaps your society values strength differently, but I believe that bravery and moral action are universal." She felt a sense of hope that perhaps humans could teach her people a new way to think about courage, morality, and leadership. The following days brought a mix of formal discussions and informal observation. Elias used every opportunity to demonstrate human qualities: empathy, reasoning, and practical problem-solving. He spoke honestly, never attempting to manipulate or flatter. Zitharans were used to carefully scripted diplomacy, where every gesture was calculated to gain advantage. Elias' openness was unusual, but it captured their attention. Meanwhile, Lysera continued to observe closely. She noticed how his team worked with him, how they collaborated rather than competed, and how they treated the Zitharan citizens with respect. Small acts of kindness, a human offering water to a child caught in the heat, helping a merchant repair a damaged stall, did not go unnoticed. Zitharans valued efficiency and strength, but here was a species showing that courage and compassion could achieve as much as raw power. Tensions grew when word arrived that the rival faction within the council had begun spreading rumors. They suggested that humans were here to exploit Zithara's resources, to gain secret knowledge of advanced technologies. Elias anticipated this, having studied alien political strategies extensively. He responded not with anger but with calm, reasoned explanations, addressing each concern directly and transparently. Lysera found herself impressed not only by his bravery in the face of danger, but by his ability to confront deception with clarity and honesty. Where Zitharans might respond with counter-deception or hierarchical enforcement, Elias relied on evidence, logic, and ethical reasoning. It was a different kind of strength, one that relied on intellect, courage, and moral clarity rather than size, rank, or intimidation. One evening, as the twin suns set and bathed the city in golden light, Elias was called to a private discussion with the council. The rival faction had escalated their plan, attempting to frame humans for an incident involving one of the city's energy conduits. The council needed to assess the truth carefully, and Elias understood that this was a test, not just of his intelligence but of his character. He approached the council chamber confidently. "I understand there are allegations against humanity," he said plainly. "We have done nothing to harm Zithra. I am willing to cooperate fully to demonstrate our intentions and to ensure the safety of your citizens." Lysera observed from a balcony above, realizing that humans' moral courage often exceeded what Zitherans themselves valued. A human did not need to command fleets or dominate with strength. They could inspire trust, respect, and even admiration through honesty, bravery, and intelligence. The next hours were tense, with investigations, examinations of records, and careful verification of the facts. Elias worked closely with the Zitharan officials, demonstrating both knowledge and ethical conduct. Slowly, the truth became clear. The rival faction had acted deceitfully, attempting to manipulate the council for personal gain. When the council finally acknowledged the human's innocence, there was a subtle shift in the room. Some councilors nodded with respect, others remained cautious but silent. Lysera felt a surge of admiration for Elias. He had faced danger, deception, and political intrigue with courage and integrity, and in doing so had earned a level of trust few humans, or aliens, had ever achieved. Later, in a quiet garden within the palace complex, Lysera approached him. "You navigate danger, deception, and suspicion with a calmness that is extraordinary," she said. "Your actions inspire those around you, even those who are usually unmovable in their ways." Humanity has learned that survival and progress depend on courage, collaboration, and honesty. These qualities are not always easy, but they are universal. Here was a human who demonstrated a different kind of strength, one that could change minds, inspire action, and challenge old ways of thinking. She realized that humans were not merely clever, they were brave, moral, and capable of leadership in ways her people had rarely considered. As night fell over Zithra, the city shimmered under the twin moons. Elias and his team returned to their quarters, exhausted but satisfied. They had navigated their first major test successfully, earning respect and building trust through courage, intelligence, and ethical action. Unseen by them, Lysera watched from her private quarters, her admiration for the human diplomat deepening. She wondered what other challenges he would face, and how his presence might continue to change Zithra's perception of humanity. In that moment, a quiet thought settled in her mind. Perhaps humans could teach Zithra that bravery, intelligence, and morality were as powerful as any weapon, any technology, or any ancient tradition. And perhaps, in the days to come, one human could inspire a new way of thinking that would resonate across her entire civilization. The morning air in Zithra's capital was crisp, carrying a hint of the twin suns' warmth across the crystalline city. Elias Marlowe stepped out onto the palace balcony, observing the soft shimmer of the streets below. The city had begun to feel less alien, yet every glance reminded him that he was far from home. Today, the council would discuss trade agreements and cultural exchanges, but Elias could sense a deeper tension lurking beneath the formalities. The rival faction, though temporarily quiet after the recent events, had not vanished. Their intent to undermine humanity was still a threat. Lysera appeared beside him, her presence quiet yet commanding. She did not speak immediately, instead watching the human diplomat as he prepared notes for the council meeting. She had come to admire more than just his bravery. She admired his patience, his thoughtful nature, and the way he carried himself under scrutiny. Elias, sensing her observation, offered a polite nod. "Good morning, Princess," he said, his tone calm. I hope you slept well. Understanding your environment and the people within it allows better decisions. It may not be impressive to some, but it is effective. Despite initial skepticism, the events of the previous day had begun to sway public opinion. Humans were small and unarmed, yet they had prevented disaster, demonstrating qualities Zitherans seldom valued as highly as raw power or strict hierarchy. Inside the chamber, council members were already seated, their expressions a mixture of curiosity, caution, and hidden calculation. The rival faction had requested to present their findings regarding the alleged incident from the previous day. Elias understood that this session could easily become a trap if he misstepped. The senior counselor spoke first, his voice deliberate. The humans have been accused of interference with our energy grid. Evidence suggests intentional manipulation for personal gain. We must investigate the truth before proceeding with agreements. He did not panic, did not attempt to argue aggressively, nor did he attempt to impress. His courage was quiet but undeniable. The investigation began with meticulous examination of the energy grid systems, logs, and maintenance records. Elias assisted Zitharan engineers in reviewing the data, offering insights based on human technology and methods. Despite the technological differences, he quickly identified anomalies that suggested deliberate tampering, consistent with the rival faction's intent to frame humanity. Hours passed as evidence was analyzed. The rival faction became increasingly frustrated, their expressions tightening as their deceit unraveled. Elias remained composed, presenting facts clearly and logically, without a hint of condescension or anger. The council listened intently, unable to ignore the clarity and honesty in his explanations. Lysera, from her observation point, felt a mixture of admiration and revelation. Humans were not merely brave, they were capable of reasoning and moral action in ways that challenged Zitharan assumptions. They did not rely solely on power or tradition. They relied on courage, integrity, and intelligence. In her eyes, Elias embodied the qualities that Zitharans had often overlooked. By midday, the council had reached a consensus. The humans were innocent, and the rival faction's attempt at deception was exposed. The revelation caused a subtle shift in the chamber. Some council members who had been neutral began to nod in recognition of Elias' integrity. Even those skeptical of humanity could not deny the competence and bravery demonstrated. After the session, Elias returned to the palace gardens to meet with his team. Marla was reviewing linguistic notes, noting subtle cultural shifts in the council's communication. Captain Hart observed the guards, noting increased respect toward the humans. Elias summarized the day's events. "We have successfully demonstrated our intentions and capabilities," he said, "but we must remain vigilant. The rival faction is not gone, and there will likely be further attempts to discredit us. Our approach must remain consistent, honest, courageous, and collaborative. The citizens observe you, and many are beginning to question assumptions about strength, leadership, and courage. You inspire a perspective that is rare here." That principle applies to all species. Their collaborative efforts demonstrated that humans were not here to take advantage, but to contribute meaningfully. During one such demonstration, a structural instability was discovered in a newly constructed district. Humans and Zitharans worked together under Elias' guidance to assess and correct the issue. Where Zitharans might have hesitated or deferred to hierarchy, Elias empowered collaboration, allowing those with knowledge and skill to act decisively. The problem was resolved swiftly, and the citizens involved expressed respect and admiration for the humans' approach. Lysera observed closely, increasingly impressed by how Elias balanced courage with intelligence, action with ethical consideration. She realized that humans did not require dominance to make a significant impact. Their bravery, ingenuity, and moral clarity were powerful enough to inspire change. The rival faction, frustrated by their repeated failures to undermine the humans, began to escalate their tactics. They spread rumors, attempted bureaucratic roadblocks, and even created minor disruptions in the city. Elias faced each challenge with calm determination, addressing problems directly and transparently. His ability to remain composed and principled under pressure further strengthened the growing trust among Zitharan council members and citizens alike. One evening, as the twin moons rose over the city, Elias and Lysera walked through the palace gardens. The air was cool, carrying the scent of exotic flowers and the faint hum of the city below. "You navigate challenges with remarkable calm," Lysera said. "Your actions inspire trust and respect in ways we rarely see here. Humans possess a courage that is both quiet and compelling. That principle applies across cultures, species, and circumstances." She felt a growing sense of admiration, not only for Elias' actions but for what humanity represented. In the following weeks, Elias continued to navigate the complexities of Zitharan politics. He built relationships with council members, citizens, and engineers alike, demonstrating the value of collaboration, honesty, and courage. Each successful negotiation, each problem solved, and each act of integrity further solidified humanity's reputation on Zithara. Lysera observed closely, noting how humans' unique qualities were reshaping perceptions across her society. She realized that Elias' presence was more than diplomatic, it was transformative. His actions challenged long-held assumptions about strength, leadership, and bravery. Humans, small and physically vulnerable, were making a lasting impact through character and courage. One afternoon, as Elias prepared for a council session regarding new trade agreements, Lysera approached him privately. "I have watched your actions closely," she said. "You face challenges with a balance of courage and wisdom that is rare even among our strongest citizens. Humans are remarkable, not because of power, but because of principles and resilience. These are qualities that can bridge any gap, even between vastly different cultures." As night fell, the city of Zithara shimmered under the twin moons, its streets alive with subtle activity. Elias and his team returned to their quarters, exhausted but satisfied with their progress. Each challenge faced, each problem solved, and each act of courage had strengthened trust and respect between humans and Zitharans. Unseen, Lysera continued to watch from her private quarters, her admiration growing. She understood that Elias' bravery was not reckless, it was principled, guided by intelligence and ethics. Humans, she realized, could not only survive in alien societies but could thrive and inspire transformation. For the first time, she considered that perhaps the humans' influence might extend far beyond simple diplomacy. Their courage, moral clarity, and ingenuity could challenge Zithara's traditions and assumptions, inspiring a new way of thinking across her civilization. And she wondered what other remarkable qualities humanity might reveal in the days to come. The morning air on Zithara was tense, carrying a quiet urgency that even the bustling city could not conceal. Word had spread quickly. The rival faction within the council was planning a bold move. They had grown frustrated by the humans' influence and the admiration they had garnered from both citizens and council members. This time, their plan was not subtle. It was designed to seize control of key parts of the city, to trap the princess and the council, and to discredit humanity entirely. Elias Marlowe was informed by the palace security early in the day. Captain Hart briefed him with a steady voice, though his eyes betrayed concern. "The rival faction has mobilized forces to infiltrate the city's administrative centers. If we don't act, there could be significant risk to Princess Lysera and the council members." It was not just about solving a technical problem or navigating bureaucracy. It was a direct threat to lives, to trust, and to the fragile progress of diplomacy. Yet he did not falter. "We prepare immediately," he said. "We assess the risk, coordinate with local security, and ensure civilian safety. We act with precision, not haste." The humans and the Zitherans must work together. It is action in spite of fear. We cannot allow uncertainty to paralyze us. The safety of the people comes first. Elias quickly assessed the situation, identifying the points of vulnerability and the civilians most at risk. He worked with Zitharan security officers, coordinating efforts with clarity and precision. Unlike the aliens, who often relied on hierarchical command structures, Elias empowered those around him to act based on skill and knowledge. Engineers repaired security systems, guards secured vulnerable areas, and civilians were guided to safety, all under Elias' direction. Lysera observed from a nearby vantage point, impressed by how the human diplomat navigated the chaos. Where the Zitherans might have hesitated, arguing over protocol or rank, Elias moved decisively, combining strategy, collaboration, and moral courage. Even minor citizens who assisted were inspired by his example, acting with bravery they had not known they possessed. The rival faction realized their plan was being countered. Frustration turned to aggression as they attempted to forcibly take control of a central communications hub. Elias and Hart moved quickly to intercept. They were outnumbered, yet Elias relied not on physical strength but on clever strategy and coordination with Zitharan forces. He identified choke points, used barriers to slow the rival faction, and communicated constantly with allies to prevent casualties. Every action was deliberate, focused on protecting lives rather than seeking confrontation. The humans' courage inspired Zitharan soldiers to act more boldly, breaking through hesitation and following Elias' lead. Amid the chaos, Lysera entered the fray. She moved with purpose, guided by the human example she had come to admire. She assisted in coordinating civilians, directing them to safety, and relaying critical information to the security teams. Together, human and alien, they formed an unexpected but effective alliance. At a critical moment, Elias faced the faction's leader, a cunning Zitharan whose strategy relied on intimidation and fear. The leader attempted to create panic among the humans and their allies, but Elias stood firm. Calmly, he analyzed the situation, identified weaknesses in the leader's plan, and directed a countermaneuver. The humans and Zitharans worked together seamlessly. Elias' bravery was not reckless, it was calculated and principled. He acted in ways that inspired trust, confidence, and cooperation. Where others might have relied on aggression, he relied on intelligence, strategy, and moral courage. Minutes felt like hours as the conflict unfolded. Sparks flew from damaged machinery, alarms blared, and citizens moved quickly to safer areas. Yet through it all, Elias remained composed, issuing instructions and adapting to rapidly changing circumstances. Every action demonstrated a remarkable combination of courage and intelligence. Lysera watched closely, increasingly aware of the impact one human could have. She realized that his actions were not just saving lives, they were changing perceptions. Zitharans had long valued power, rank, and protocol above all else. Yet here was a human showing that bravery, intelligence, and moral clarity could achieve far more than force or hierarchy alone. Finally, the rival faction's plan collapsed. Their leader was captured, their forces dispersed, and the city's administrative centers secured. The council and Princess Lysera were safe, thanks to the decisive and courageous actions of humans and Zitharans working together. In the aftermath, citizens emerged cautiously, observing the scene. There was relief, admiration, and quiet amazement at the bravery and competence displayed by the humans. Council members, some previously skeptical, approached Elias with nods of respect. Lysera herself stepped forward, her expression one of both pride and reflection. "You have done more than prevent a disaster," she said softly. "You have inspired courage and cooperation across our people. Humans possess bravery that is rare even among the strongest of our kind, and you have shown us the value of intelligence guided by moral clarity. It is not my bravery alone, Princess. It is the cooperation, trust, and courage of all those who acted with us. Humans have principles, but true strength lies in unity and shared purpose. Elias' example had not only saved lives, but had inspired Zitherans to reconsider long-held assumptions about leadership, strength, and bravery. In the following days, the Council formally acknowledged the humans' contributions. Trade agreements were advanced, and new initiatives for cultural exchange were approved. Citizens began to speak openly about the humans' bravery and integrity, discussing how one species could inspire an entire civilization without force, weapons, or dominance. Lysera spent time with Elias, asking questions about human history, values, and methods. She discovered a pattern of courage, collaboration, and ethical action that contrasted sharply with the rigid structures of Zither society. Humans were not perfect, but their principles allowed them to act decisively, even in the face of danger or uncertainty. One evening, after another day of council deliberations, Lysera and Elias walked through the palace gardens. The air was cool, carrying the scent of exotic flowers that shimmered softly under the twin moons. "You inspire more than admiration," Lysera said. "You inspire action. Even our citizens and soldiers have learned to trust their judgment and act with courage because of your example. Humans are remarkable, not for their strength, but for their principles and their ability to act in the face of fear. I hope that quality can be understood across your civilization as well." Humans had arrived as outsiders, yet they had transformed how the people thought about strength, leadership, and honor. In the days that followed, Elias continued to work closely with council members, citizens, and engineers, ensuring stability and fostering trust. The palace and city became a hub of collaboration, where human ingenuity and Zitharan precision combined to create solutions faster and more effectively than either species could have managed alone. Lysera remained a constant observer, often stepping in to assist, learning from the humans while guiding her people. She realized that Elias' bravery and principles had created a ripple effect. Where there had once been suspicion and fear, there was now cooperation, admiration, and a willingness to take bold action. Elias understood that this was only the beginning. The rival faction, though weakened, would not disappear entirely. Challenges would arise, but with careful planning, integrity, and courage, humanity could continue to influence Zithara positively. He believed in the strength of principles over brute force, and in the power of moral courage to inspire others. As the twin moons rose high in the sky, casting silver light across the palace gardens, Lysera looked at Elias with a newfound respect. She understood that humans, though small and physically vulnerable, possessed a unique strength that could inspire entire civilizations. Bravery, intelligence, and moral clarity were qualities that could change not only outcomes but perspectives, values, and traditions. For the first time, she considered that humanity's influence on Zithara might extend far beyond diplomacy. Elias had shown that one species, acting with courage and integrity, could challenge assumptions, inspire change, and redefine what it meant to be strong. She felt hope, a hope that humans and Zitherans could create a partnership built on mutual respect, trust, and shared principles. And as the night deepened, the city of Zithara glimmered with the promise of a new era, one shaped not by dominance or fear, but by the quiet power of human bravery and moral courage. The city of Zithara was quiet that morning, the calm after recent chaos settling like a gentle wave over the crystalline spires. The twin suns reflected softly on the polished surfaces, casting a golden light across streets that had, over the past days, seen courage, conflict, and cooperation unlike anything before. Elias Marlowe stood on the balcony of the palace, observing the city below. The events of recent weeks had tested him, his team, and the Zitherans in ways that had required bravery, intelligence, and moral clarity. Now, he felt a sense of cautious optimism. Lysera joined him quietly, her gaze following his. She had grown to admire the human diplomat not only for his courage, but for the principles guiding every action. She thought about how the humans had approached challenges with integrity, relying on intellect and collaboration rather than brute strength or hierarchy. Their example had begun to shift perceptions across the city and council alike. "You have changed more than just the council's opinion," Lysera said softly. "Citizens, soldiers, and even skeptics now act differently because of your presence. They see courage in a new way. Your actions inspire a strength we often overlook, moral courage. Your species survives not because of size or technology alone, but because of principles. I see now why humans are respected across the galaxy despite physical limitations." Yet beneath the formal discussions, there was an undercurrent of transformation. The Council had recognized the humans' role not merely in diplomacy, but in demonstrating the value of courage, collaboration, and moral action. The rival faction, though still present, had been weakened significantly, their influence diminished by the humans' clear demonstration of integrity and competence. As Elias and his team entered the chamber, the atmosphere was noticeably different. Council members greeted them with respect, and murmurs of approval echoed quietly among the representatives. Lysera took her place beside the throne, observing closely, knowing the humans' influence had reshaped the room. The senior counselor began. "Representatives of humanity, your actions during recent events have proven more than capability. You have demonstrated courage, intelligence, and moral clarity. Your presence has inspired a new understanding of leadership and cooperation in Zithra. For this, we express gratitude. It is our belief that cooperation, guided by integrity and courage, allows civilizations to thrive. We do not seek dominance or advantage, only mutual understanding and shared progress. Projects to improve energy efficiency, urban planning, and cultural education were proposed, with humans and Zitharans working side by side. Elias facilitated collaboration with patience and insight, ensuring every voice was heard and every idea considered. Lysera found herself increasingly inspired. Where Zitharan society had relied on hierarchy and caution, humans introduced flexibility, adaptability, and ethical reasoning. Their bravery was not reckless. It was principled, based on intelligence and moral clarity. She realized that their influence could extend far beyond current negotiations, shaping the way her civilization thought about leadership, courage, and responsibility. After the session, Elias and Lysera walked through the palace gardens. The air was cool, carrying the scent of rare flowers and the soft hum of the city below. Citizens moved about, some pausing to watch the human diplomat and the princess together. Whispers of admiration followed them quietly, reflecting the growing impact of human example across Zithra. "You inspire more than respect," Lysera said. "You inspire change. Even those who resisted your presence now consider their actions, their assumptions, and their values differently. Humans have a way of teaching through example, not command. We rely on integrity, courage, and collaboration. When people witness those qualities in action, they often find the courage to do the same." She realized that Elias had not only prevented disaster, but had set a model for ethical action and bravery that Zitharans would remember for generations. In the following days, the humans participated in multiple cultural exchange programs. They shared knowledge about Terran history, technology, and ethics. Citizens learned to appreciate the value of collaboration, critical thinking, and moral courage. Children in schools were taught human problem-solving methods alongside Zitharan scientific principles. Small acts of bravery and initiative inspired by the humans began to spread quietly throughout the city. Meanwhile, Elias continued to navigate diplomatic challenges with patience and insight. He mediated disputes, proposed equitable solutions, and ensured that all voices, human and Zitharan alike, were heard. His approach emphasized shared goals and moral responsibility, rather than competition or personal gain. Lysera observed with admiration. She understood that humans had survived and thrived not through sheer strength, but through principles that combined courage, intelligence, and ethical action. She also saw that Elia's influence was shaping her society in profound ways, challenging old assumptions and encouraging reflection, responsibility, and bold but principled action. One evening, as the twin moons rose and bathed the city in silver light, Elias and Lysera stood on a balcony overlooking the palace gardens. The city shimmered below, alive with subtle movement and quiet conversation. The atmosphere was different now, calmer, more cooperative, and charged with the promise of progress. "You have done more than fulfill your role as a diplomat," Lysera said. "You have shown Zithara that courage, intelligence, and moral clarity are as important as strength or rank. Your species' values inspire action, reflection, and trust. It is my hope that these qualities can be appreciated, adapted, and shared across Zithara as well." They had achieved what few other species could, shaping a civilization through example rather than force. In the following weeks, formal ceremonies recognized the humans' contributions. Trade agreements were signed, cultural collaborations were established, and joint projects in technology, education, and urban planning began. Citizens openly expressed appreciation for the humans' bravery and guidance, acknowledging that moral courage and ethical action were just as powerful as physical might. Lysera continued to work closely with Elias, learning from him while also guiding her people. She observed how humans balanced bravery with strategy, moral action with practicality, and collaboration with leadership. She realized that Elias had not only achieved personal success, but had created a lasting influence that would shape Zitharan society for years to come. One evening, after the final council meeting on trade and cooperation, Lysera approached Elias privately. The city was quiet, the twin moons reflecting softly off the crystalline spires. "I have watched your actions closely," she said. "Your bravery, intelligence, and moral clarity have inspired more than respect. They have inspired a new way of thinking. Humans can survive, thrive, and transform civilizations not through force, but through principles. When these qualities are applied consistently, they inspire trust, cooperation, and lasting change. That is the path humanity has followed, and it can be a path for others as well." Yet humans had demonstrated that courage, intelligence, and ethical action could achieve far more than brute power. Elias had shown her that principles could inspire entire civilizations, creating lasting respect and admiration. In the days that followed, the humans and Zitharans continued to work together. Collaborative projects expanded across the city and into neighboring regions. Citizens began to take initiative, applying lessons learned from human example in everyday life. Soldiers acted with greater discretion and courage, guided by moral reasoning as well as orders. The city, once rigid and cautious, began to embrace innovation, empathy, and collaboration. Elias understood that his role had gone beyond diplomacy. He had become a symbol of human values, courage, intelligence, and moral integrity, in a society that had long valued rank and power above all else. Through consistent action, he had inspired trust, cooperation, and admiration that would endure long after he left Zithara. Lysera watched him during a ceremonial gathering where humans and Zitharans celebrated joint accomplishments. She observed how citizens of all ages, council members, and soldiers interacted, inspired by human example. She realized that Elias had not only changed perceptions, but had set a foundation for a new era in Zitharan society, one where courage, intelligence, and moral action were recognized as vital components of leadership and influence. As the ceremony concluded, Elias and Lysera stood together on the palace balcony once more. The twin moons glimmered above, casting a serene light over the city. Lysera turned to him with a thoughtful smile. "Humans are remarkable," she said, "not because of strength or dominance, but because of principles and the courage to act rightly. You have inspired a new era for Zithara." Humans had arrived as outsiders, small and vulnerable, yet they had inspired courage, respect, and lasting change. Elias had shown that one species, acting with intelligence, bravery, and moral clarity, could transform a civilization not through force, but through example. And in that quiet moment under the twin moons, she realized that humans had not only survived on Zithra, they had thrived, inspired, and left an indelible mark on the hearts and minds of her people. The city shimmered below, alive with the promise of cooperation, understanding, and a new era guided by principles that transcended species, culture, and tradition. The human diplomat had achieved more than negotiation. He had demonstrated that courage, intelligence, and moral clarity were forces capable of shaping civilizations, earning respect and admiration far beyond what anyone could have anticipated. Zithra was no longer the same city it had been before the humans arrived. The hearts and minds of its citizens had been touched, its council enlightened, and its princess inspired. And for Elias Marlowe, the mission had proven that humanity's greatest strength was not in technology, size, or power, but in the principles that guided every action, a lesson that would endure long after he returned to his own world.